topic of women's oppression has been tackled for a long period of time, and it has, in fact, become a long-standing issue. Gender inequalities today must originate from past practices that led to biased judgments. Or else, how do we explain the fact that in the 21st century, we're still being bothered by the same exact problems we had in the past? It is the 21st century today, and we're still talking about things such as earning and employment differences between men and women. Women has played a role in the labor force since the Industrial Revolution, a time period from the 18th to 19th century when women decided to switch their roles from home to factory. And given the fact that women are just capable of being members of the workforce just as men, the traditional role of being housewives are still being placed on them. This persisted well into the 20th century. In a study called the Current Population Survey, conducted by the United States Department of Labor, it highlighted that there are more women employed in fields related to education, training, and healthcare professions, whereas men are more likely to be employed to management and business related fields. The implication that women's pursuits are motherhood and domesticity still exists today, and that explains that they are not given an equal chance of success. Furthermore, it is even more devastating to find that when men are earning full dollars, women are only earning cents.
In the United States, women earn 77.9 cents for every dollar earned by men. The number comes from the uncontrolled or raw gender pay gap that measures the median salary of all men and women regardless of their type of work or seniority. The gap gets even wider for women of color, who make 62 cents to every dollar made by men.
Another study posted by the same department, they found that in the year 2008, the highest median weekly earnings of women in all major occupational categories is about $1,000. On the other hand, the highest median weekly earnings of men is almost $1,700. And in the study, there was no one major occupational category where women had earned a higher weekly earnings than men. Despite this disadvantage in earnings and in employment, women also has to face a hostile and non-constructive work environment. Studies have shown that every 1 out of 3 women has been sexually harassed in their work environment. Compared to the sexually harassed men counterparts, women are more concerned about sexual harassment. In 2011, 11,000 complaints were filed to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, resulting in a $52.3 million in damages. The imbalanced power dynamics between men and women in workplaces, unclear reporting policies, and career-ending consequences brought women into an insecure position. On the other hand, perpetrators of sexual harassment are taking larger and bigger steps in abusing women. Hostile work environments, relatively low income, and skewed employment. It seems that women today have to face more of a difficulty in pursuing a role other than their traditional role. Additionally, this is a problem that does not only exist in the United States, it is also universal. Maxine Hong Kingston is an American writer whose work presents and demonstrates her personal experience as a first generation Chinese American. Kingston's father immigrated to New York City as a scholar in 1924, while her mother stayed in China until 1939. After attending college, Maxine Hong Kingston published her first book, The Woman Warrior: Memoirs of a Girlhood Among Ghosts. In one particular chapter, no-name women. She places herself as a narrator and tells the audiences about stories that had impacted her since youth. But also at the same time, she's indicating the difference in the power dynamic between men and women. Women's oppression has persisted throughout history. They had less freedom in society. In conventional Chinese culture, Chinese society expected and tasked them for marriage and raising children, while men had more opportunities such as immigration and jobs. One example of a past practice that exhibited oppression towards females is the practice of foot binding. The practice is a painful process of confining one's feet into a small sized shoe for a long period of time. The practice dates back to the 10th century, a period of time when a female having small feet is a sign of beauty. The practice persisted through today and granted females reputations of refinement and beauty for marriage.
21-year-old Peiqiao wanted to show us the process which has left her with no feeling in her feet. From the age of 7, she would have to do this every day or face a beating from her parents.
This shows how the society has expected women to be housewives. Marriage is more of a goal set for females other than pursuing success. Additionally, Maxine Hong Kingston also hints that many families have a son preference tradition. Traditionally, sons have long been preferred over daughters in Chinese families. The boys can help with labor and become successful for finding jobs easier, whereas daughters were thought of someone who would eventually be taken away by another husband for another family. This conventional thinking reveals itself and became more prevalent as the one-child policy was enacted in 1979. It was a policy that limited each family to only have one child to reduce the enormous population in China. Since they only had one child, most families wanted a boy because they think he might have a better chance of success. And in the birth gap between boys and girls, we can see that by the late 1970s, we have 116 boys for every 100 girls. And although the gap decreased as we proceed into the 21st century, they never really reach an equal status.
Given China's traditional preference for boys, you have a surplus of boys, mainly concentrated in rural areas of China where parents were most keen to have a boy because they needed him for the farm, and tradition just also weighed a bit more heavily and they wanted a son.
From stories the narrator's mother intells, Maxine Hong Kingston also indicates that it is obvious that she wanted to convey a message to outline the gender roles of women in the way they are expected to live their life. It is certain that the mother is aware of this issue and has possibly learned it from her mother. It is a message about how women should act to survive that has been passed on from earlier generations. Again, gender inequalities originate from past practices and prejudices, such as the yin-yang symbol. In the ancient Chinese cultural setting, the yang side is thought to represent men, which resembles strength and power, more predominant, while yin is more soft, submissive, and passive. The old thinking originated from Taoism. As we can see, gender inequalities are not only a myth, they exist right in front of our eyes and everywhere in the world. You may ask, how do we end it? I think that the first steps we can take as a society is to slowly eliminate the gender-based assumptions that has rooted so deeply in our minds. And we should not let past assumptions influence our thinking today. Just because women were housewives in the past doesn't mean that they aren't capable of pursuing success just as men. And we have to admit that they are just capable of pursuing success as men, and therefore they should be given an equal chance and support to pursue it.